scratch, wampum, dough, sugar, clams, loot, bills, bones, bread, bucks, money. Money is, at its essence, that measure.
Welcome to the Ozark podcast. I'm Jamie G. Esquire, the 5th MD, Master of Surgical Arts. He is the mathematician Magnum, and we're from the Joe Blow Football Show. We're here to break down our thoughts about Season 4, Part 1 of Ozark, available on Netflix.
Thank you, kind, not a doctor, not a lawyer, not really sir, but I'll call you sir. And it's maybe the first time in your life someone has called you sir without saying you're embarrassing yourself right after. And hey, welcome. This is the Ozark podcast. Thank you for listening. We're just a couple guys from the Joe Blow Football Show, and we're just doing this for fun. We're here because we like talking about Ozark. You're probably not going to be able to build a college thesis around this. If you do, please let us know. Not going to read all of it, but the synopsis will totally check out that first page. And, just thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. We're most definitely going to come back to cover Part 2 of Season 4. So be here for that. But for now, we're here to kind of look back at Part 1 of Season 4 and figure out what were our highlights, our lowlights, put a grade on it, and get ready to look forward to Part 2 of Season 4. Jamie G, how you living, Biggie Smalls?
In mansions and bends. I'm giving ends to my friends, and it feels stupendous, dude. Well, to be honest with you, Magnum Mills, I've been excited about this. I've had, some time to process the first 7 episodes here and really go back and think about it, watch them a couple times, listen to the Ozark podcast, of course, to recap things. And, I'm sitting around, I'm having a couple glasses of wine here, and I can't wait to discuss kind of where we landed on this thing. And, I think the best thing to do here is there was a couple of storylines, characters, plots, whatever you want to call it, that really stuck in our craw. I mean, it got our goat. And I think the best thing to do is start with maybe the top 3 things that we didn't like about Ozark. But don't worry, people. Don't worry. There is so much that we did like. This is going to be a short portion of the podcast. Magnum Mills, I'm going to start right off, okay? And I think we both agree the number one thing that just absolutely made me want to just pull my hair out, run through a wall, smack kick the dog, whatever you want to say, okay, it's just the FBI storyline. It's so bad in so many ways, right? Like, it started off with the admission of guilt by the birds. Like, we're not even hiding it anymore. Then, Agent Mays, like, she's just immediately like, she goes rogue after they do this deal with Omar, and then they flip Javi in like 2 seconds. They've never gotten the FBI storyline right in any of the seasons prior to this one. And boy, oh boy, are they continuing to struggle. You could just go, hate, because that's how much I hate what they've done with the FBI storyline.
You, my friend, you are not joking. I know a guy named Joe King, but you are not joking, because literally I would say I disliked that plot line so bad that when I kept trying to come up with a couple of different things I didn't like, I kept coming back to different parts of that plot line. So I'm going to say that 2 of my biggest dislikes are from that FBI plot line, and one is the way that the FBI has dealt with the birds. We have no idea where they stand. It's like we skip scenes where they talked about making a deal. I mean, if the birds don't have something on paper, what are they really doing? What is their leverage here? They're talking on the phone, on their personal lines. They're not hiding anything. Like you said, they're openly talking about whatever they brought Navarro to them. What do they have that's going to keep them out of jail? I don't quite understand, unless they signed a deal with the FBI. And if they did that, they should kind of show that, right? This is a show that's been very good generally about keeping most of the characters informed at all times. Having the birds sign an actual agreement with the FBI and not showing us, I think, would be just way out of character there. And then I have to say, the whole idea that Navarro was ever going to really get this deal done was kind of far-fetched. But then they go to do the deal, and then it's secretly sabotaged by, just Maya Miller, who's not a director or anything, just an agent. She gets one over on her superiors, and then they respond to just making a deal with Javi, who is just like a guy who's willing to kill all the snitches or whatever. Now he's just like, oh yeah, 10 years. Oh, I'm cool with that. I actually am not mad at Javi for it. I think it makes sense from him, because even if he doesn't care about going back to the US, he can just deal with the FBI as long as he wants to, and then just peace out and just be like, oh fuck it, I'm not going back to the US anymore. It just doesn't. Why would the FBI do that deal? So again, a lot of the stuff I dislike with the season is just the way they've handled the entire FBI plot line. So Jamie G, you have anything else on that plot line, or what else really didn't work for you here in part one?
Just the other thing here too, Magnum Mills, I don't want to just literally beat the dead horse of the FBI. Like, I know you guys get it. Like, look, they fucking don't like the storyline. Well, yeah, we don't fucking like the storyline. All right, that's what it is. But I didn't like that they brought in like the senior ranking dickhead FBI guy, and then no introduction of what he was whatsoever. And basically he is calling the shots with the direct executive, like the head of the second largest drug cartel in the world. And he's just making this deal to continue getting cash and raiding them. Like, it just really, Homeland Security isn't involved in this. It's just so far-fetched that it's just they just really botched this here and then rushed it, like getting Javi to flip and all that going down in about 10 minutes. Just, I don't know, man. I go on and on and on about it. Did not like it. Moving on. The other thing that was a miss for me here was, and I say this with an asterisk because it could pay off, but it didn't, and it took way too long to get there, is the storyline of Mel, the private investigator. Now, on paper, I really like this idea. It gives us someone new, comes in, sniffs around. Maybe there's a hidden agenda. There probably is. They've got some other kind of storyline that we don't know about, the real reason they're there. We might have started to get to that, but you got to guess. As episode 7 rolled around, you got to kind of connect the dots there and think maybe that's what it is. Like, it could pay off in the back half, but it was really, really slow going. And it just kind of let me down because he's such a cool cat. This dude, I love watching him drive around in his fucking car, jamming to cool tunes, chewing gum, rocking killer sideburns. I mean, this guy is pretty cool. Am I right? I mean, he's pretty damn cool, right? But too slow of development for me on Mel.
It just seems like they needed this character to play a role in their end game, and they couldn't really figure out what to do with him for the first part of the season. So they just kind of chose to like make him look cool. Like, oh, he's smart and you don't know what he's doing. He's a wild card. And they did a good job of that, but it has to go somewhere. If it goes somewhere, so then when you rewatch the series, it really adds a layer. You could argue that that's not the greatest way to go, that you have to do a rewatch to really pick up all the nuance of what's going on. It just, again, like you said, the fact that he's been here 7 episodes and we still don't really know exactly what he's doing is a little bit of a tenuous situation. Like, all right, we've been here this long, it's time to kind of shit or get off the pot a little bit with the character. And like you said, seems like a cool dude. Like, you want him to, like, you remember that episode of The Simpsons way back in the day where Homer bribes Fat Tony to help distribute Marge's pretzels, and then they eventually don't pay, so the mob comes to collect from Marge and Homer. So somehow, I forget, but the Yakuza gets involved. And so outside, you get this great scene of the Italian mafia with Fat Tony fighting the Italian Yakuza. And in the back, there's just this like one little Japanese guy in a white jacket just standing quietly. And Marge is trying to drag Homer away. And Homer's like, dude, that little guy over there hasn't done anything yet. I just want to see, you can do whatever you want later. I just want to see what he does. She drags him inside, starts yelling at him, and you can kind of see through the kitchen window. All you see is this little like dude, the little white Chinese dude flipping around in the background and kicking all the guys and flying through the air. And at one point gets thrown through the window. He's like, oh, I'm sorry. And then goes out and starts kicking dudes' ass again. Like, that's kind of, what we're going for there.
No, great reference, and went deep into the well for that one. That's what we hope Mel turns into. That's everything Mel could be. We'll find out. Lastly, for me, Magnum Mills was the KC Mafia. And look, I'm gonna preface this, people. Your boy Jamie G, Esquire the 5th of the Joe Blow Football Show, is a mob guy. I love the Mafia. Everything, storylines, like movies, books. It's awesome. I'm there for it every time. Most of my favorite movies involve the mafia. Sopranos, like all day long. Anytime you want to talk about tone, the rest of the guys, all day, I'm there for it. Okay. Love it. I wanted this storyline in the Kansas City Mafia to be somebody. I wanted them to be part of this thing of ours, man. I really wanted them to develop into a major player. And I just think the show didn't know how to do that, or they thought they had too much going on. And basically, they had this great, awesome, shiny, beautiful thing, and they just put it to the side because they really didn't know what to do with it. And then it really, for me, it hit a huge moment. And this has been building, right? When the head of a crime family running the city of Kansas City, okay, when his son gets his dick shot off by some hillbilly woman who's pushing smack, do you think for a second that family isn't going to come after said hillbilly who shot his son's dick off? I mean, come on, right? That's then this time, Darlene stiffs Frank Sr. And I love Frank Sr. I wanted more Frank Sr. Okay. Darlene stiffs him. And you really think any mob boss in the world is going to let somebody who shot off their son's dick, let's forget that, but that very same person owe them 500 grand and allow them to screw them out of rehab facilities, which is going to be way more than 500 grand, but owes them 500 grand cash. Do you really think they're not going to? I mean, it's just, that just did it, right? And then here was the final doozy for me, Magnum Mills. Frank Sr. goes over there. The last time you see Frank Sr. and Frank Jr. talk, Frank Sr. is basically saying, you're my son, and that's gonna have to be enough. Capos are rebelling on Frank Jr., all this stuff. He's not falling in line. They have this little outing. Frank Sr. gets pissed off, goes over to Darlene's house, gets shot in the chest with shotgun. Cool. Okay. Are you really telling me after 10, 12, 24 hours, 40, the captains aren't looking for the head of their family? No mention of that whatsoever. Frank Jr.'s casually out having beers. Like, there's no way. Now, with all that said, as much as I dislike that, I do like what they did with Frank Jr.'s character. He went from being this wild card, hot-headed, dickhead asshole, like the rich kid who just can't get in trouble and his parents buy him out of every trouble he gets in. So he's just a huge asshole in society. Went from being that guy to now this more humbled, analytical, strategic person. And I do like what they did with that. And I do like his desire to gravitate towards Ruth. Like, that's good. But overall, the arching Frank Sr. Kansas City Mafia storyline, not just this season. This season, we went to the precipice, and then we finally climaxed of pure disappointment with Frank Sr. and the KC Mafia. But really, since the time they got introduced onward in this show, the Ozark, man, oh man, they let me down with KC Mob. Mills, am I weirding here just because I want everything to be Goodfellas and Casino and Sopranos?
You're not wrong here. I would say there's definitely, some positives and negatives on this side of that. I will say the one positive is I like what it kind of showed is that Frank Jr. had some stuff in common with his pops, and they were both pragmatic enough to take Darlene's money when it came down to it. They both kind of did the same thing. When push came to shove, they took the money. So it does show that, he is on that level, at least his father's son. And what I dislike is the entire heroin plot line. This makes no goddamn sense. Like, how does Darlene plants up a whole new poppy field and builds a whole heroin operation? And again, right back to we don't know how much time really passes thing, but that doesn't make sense that she sails up that quick. They're selling it to pharmacies. There's cartel heroin. The KC's doing all the mob's doing with all this, and it's all pure. No one's ever cutting it for some reason. It's wildly. It makes no sense other than the idea that they're trying to get the cartel against other people. So it's just not the birds and the cartel in that storyline, I think. I feel that's the entire reason that the Snells were doing the heroin thing in the first place. I think it would have been enough if they just were the people they had to deal with because they had the land to do the casino thing.
And Magnum Mills, you're absolutely right. The other thing that we just kind of gloss over as viewers is the fact that dude, I don't think poppy like that grows in North America, bro. I think that's I think you got to go to the Middle East for that shit, dude. I don't think there's a lot of poppy farms in Missouri or Kansas. I don't even know that you could do it in like tropical Florida or like the growing climates of California. Like I don't, or like the Southwest for that matter. I don't think that it works here. Furthermore, I don't think that it necessarily grows in South America either. Maybe it does, but there is certainly, we all know, drug trade from different parts of the world where poppies grow. So I just, that to me was like, really, like, oh, they just have this magical land on this magical mountain in Missouri at the Ozark, and they can just grow like poppy that can then be like converted to like pure heroin. Wow, that's it seems like a stretch, right? Like I don't know.
Heroin land must be up there next to like a jobby job land where they shoot you out of a job can to this magical land where there's jobs for everybody and jobs grow on trees and
Yeah,
shout
bro,
out
I don't
Snoop
even
Doggy
know that
Dogg
they
and
could.
Charlie Day, but yeah, that would
I
have
don't
to be
think they could grow
artificial environment. I
grapes,
think the only way you could do it outside of the
let
climates
alone
where they're grown, I think, is they have
poppy.
to be artificial. I don't think there's any way you could naturally plant them in any climate north of the equator over here and make it work. I just don't.
Yeah, dude, I don't know that in the Ozark and in Missouri they can grow grapes for wine, let alone poppies for heroin. I just, that to me was a major miss. Well, look, guys,
Spoken like a man who's never had boons before.
the show wasn't.
Mad Dog's a wine, right?
Is Mad Dog a is it a
spirit.
wine or
It's
is it a
spirited
malt?
wine. It's a spirited
Is it a-
wine. It's
I thought it was a
fortified
malt-
wine. Maybe a
malt
heavy
liquor?
wine. Heavy wine.
It could be, yeah.
Strong
It
wine.
could be.
It's a strong wine.
Strong one, yeah. Well, we've all been burnt. Look, Magnum Mills, the show wasn't all bad. There's a couple of major plot lines. It just so happens that there's very few. You can probably count them on one hand, but they're bad, right? Like the plot lines that are bad are like, ah, shit, man, I really hate these plot lines. But there are a bunch of good shit. Let's walk through. We could spend the entire night talking about things we like because we love this show and I really enjoyed this season, this part one of season 4 here, the first seven episode run. But let's talk through, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 of our things that we really like that jumped off for us here at Magnum Mills. I'm going to start with, this was an interesting thing for me that I think they perfected this part 1 of season 4 that they've been working on and doing a good job throughout seasons 1, 2, and 3. And it's been getting better every season, but I think it came together nice and in harmony here. And that was the show's writers and producers and directors, their ability to put together or align new character relationships, all while creating divide between their previous alliances and relationships and creating enough seed of doubt that their newfound alliance and relationship is also possible and likely to erode. And this was very cool. They did a great job at this. And we saw this specifically with, right, when Ruth decided to go with Darlene and Wyatt. That was such a great dynamic because we all knew it couldn't last forever. At one point here, the rooster was coming to call. Like this thing was gonna boil over at one point. And it was either going to be Ruth winning Wyatt or Darlene winning Wyatt. We saw how that happened, right? We see Jonah pushing away from his parents, but also still thinking about protecting them. And like, that's an interesting dynamic, right? We saw Wendy and Marty try to come together on a certain thing, but then have a serious, wedge between what's going on with Jonah and the kids. There's so many of these little new alliance groupings, and then also, they could erode, and now they're enemies with their previous alliances. I just thought they did a really good job this season of that, and it created good suspense for me throughout the entire front 7 here, and as we head into the back 7. Magnum Mills, any thoughts around that?
Pretty much. I think that pretty much aligns with what we've been discussing, and that this is now a mature show where the actors know the characters, the writers probably had an end game in mind. Now they know how they're getting there. They seem more confident, and yeah, they've changed stuff up, and the character dynamics are fluid in a way that you really like, because that's the whole point of the show. It's that, will anyone ever really change? But while they might not change overall deep down, they're kind of changing on a day-to-day, plot-to-plot basis to because these people are just trying to survive. And I think that comes across pretty well. And like you said, they've done a good job of kind of switching things up, because this is certainly not the show it was in the first season.
Not at all.
All right.
Let's keep it moving here, brother.
Yeah, to get it, I'm going to need your help for this one, because I got a like here, but I need you to say what you said before. And it was what Darlene said when she was walking in with Wyatt at the end of the last episode, and she says her new name. So can you say it for me, please?
Darlene Langmore.
I mean, I was kind of wondering if they were going to keep her around to be like the final big bad or something like that. And I think this paid it off perfectly for me. You saw her, she was, for, in no disrespect, she was a tough ass bitch. And she, was willing to go toe to toe with Wendy, with whoever, shooting down Frank Sr., no questions asked, head of the KC mob, don't give a fuck, Darlene Snell Langmore. I thought it was, and then when she winds up on the couch begging for her life, only to just get capped in the chest in mid-sentence, it's great writing. And unfortunately, it takes Wyatt with her, but that also sets up what I think is going to be a hell of a final run here for Roos. So I have to say, I do like what they find. It looks like the Stell plot line has been basically closed out here. Love what they did with it. Shout out Darlene. You might be up there with Trina for the baddest bitch now, for real.
Darlene, one bad one, man. She don't care who you are. Like, she's not afraid of anything. And you're right, man. That final scene there was so much inner working poetic justice there that it was perfect. And I liked what they did with Darlene's character, and she just, and I think they probably felt like it ran its course, and that set up, the final 7, because we still got a lot to button up here with a lot of characters. So, it's that if that one's put to bed here, then great, we can move on. Magnum Mills, for me, I want to talk about the bull Javi. This dude, right? We talked about it coming into season 4. We knew there would have to be all right, who is going to be the cartel person, right? We had we had Del, we had Helen, we saw Omar start to emerge. And as much as I love Omar Navarro, he can't be the only dude, right? And so Javi this season, at first it was like, okay, this guy's got bravado, this guy's, he's smart, but yet creepy, but yet unpredictable, but yet stupid and young and aggressive. And as the season went on, he became a character that is just so horrible. And I hate him. He messes everything up. And then of course, what happens with Darlene and Wyatt, this dude's, for better or worse, in control moving forward for the final 7 here. And he does not trust Wendy or Marty, doesn't like him. He wants to creepily bang Charlotte, which is weird. And he's a loose cannon, dude. And he's dangerous, man. And I just love the emergence of this. They were like, okay, we got something with him, but then it was done, one and done. He was cool. He played his part. That was what it was. Then Helen, they tried to do a little bit more with, and that fully ran its course. And then, man, we got Javi, and I think they really got it right this time with the introduction of this cartel character, which will probably be our last major cartel character. But you never know; they could introduce one more here in the back 7.
Totally agree. Here, I feel in season 3, as we were, after we watched season 3, we talked about it. We're looking forward to season 4. I said one of my least favorite things was maybe going to be this upcoming cartel plot line. It just seemed like they were widening the scope too far. They're kind of taking, vestiges of the Breaking Bad stuff south of the border, some narco stuff, stuff that's in Netflix catalog, for better or worse. And they really turned it around here, I think. I didn't really like the Navarro to the FBI plot line, but I think that had more to do with the FBI part of it than the Navarro part. I kind of get when they were killing all the people and everything, why he wanted to get out and save his kids. Totally got all that. I thought he was being unreasonable about his expectations, but I get why he wanted to do it. That doesn't say whether I thought, again, what was possible. And then they brought Javi in. It's like, oh, we've kind of seen this before. And they, again, Javi, he's also, he was educated in the States and everything. They try to paint him as this smart guy, but then he actually shows he is pretty smart. He is a goddamn viper, but he's also pretty charismatic. Yeah, so I'm feeling that. That's actually was one of my likes. It's that, the cartel plotline went from something I thought could be, one of the weaker points of the show to, I think, something I really enjoyed this season, even when you had those scenes that were just, Navarro and Javi, not, no birds, no anybody, just out on their own like that. And they worked really well. And I enjoyed the relationship, especially between, Navarro and his nephew. I thought that was a good dynamic. And I think that leaves Navarro still dangerous now. And Javi, they're still all dangerous, whether, Javi's on the FBI payroll, Navarro's in jail, still both dangerous as fuck. And I think that makes where the cartel will go, in part 2 of season 4 here really unpredictable. So I really enjoyed what they did with that plot line.
Yeah, no, you're right, man. That thing really came around and is now probably the most exciting plot line, other than Ruth, heading into the back half here of the part 2 of season 4. Let's move on. This one was interesting for me, and I'm curious to see, Magnum Mills, if you agree or if you have a difference of opinion here, or there's anything that you can add to this. I got to talk for a second about Wendy. Okay, and this is two faceted, right? With just what we've seen out of her from season 1 to today. It's really amazing to me that I think Wendy has now emerged in front of Marty in a variety of ways. I actually think in this season she became, at the very least, the full-blown co-lead, at the very least, if not the lead. We watched her kind of emerge, and she is operating at her full-blown pinnacle right now. But I like how the show has taken, what was a critique and a concern of could Bateman carry a lead role like a alpha lead in such a serious drama. And I think he did, but he needed some support there. And I think that they did a really good job of bringing out Laura Linney and all her talents. And she has kind of emerged as, if not a co-lead, the lead, in my opinion. And we're also seeing it kind of symbolically in the show. Marty kind of taking not a backseat, but you almost think, shit, Wendy has more power and control politically. Wendy has more power and control, maybe with Omar, for sure. There's something there. Like, I think she talks to Omar maybe more than Marty. And, that's a new development. And I just think she has become kind of the lead here, and it's allowed Marty to kind of take a back seat to things, or more of a slow, not a back seat, but more of a calmer approach to things. And I, with the kids, for example, and it's allowed him to kind of have some of that comedic element and bring out some of that, typical Bateman humor that the show really needs. I like what they did here with kind of Wendy. It's been like a little bit each season. She's kind of crept up to Marty, and now she's neck and neck or above him a little bit in terms of like the lead character, at least for your boy Jamie G.
I would say that I've considered the show to basically have 3 co-leads for a while now, probably past season 1. But I'm absolutely with you. And then that kind of builds into, I have 2 of my likes here. They're both basically connected to the Bird family. The first being part of what you said. I like how they're utilizing Bateman better. They're letting him do some of that dry deadpan humor he's so great at, and do it in a believable way. Like when he's kind of like with Charlotte and Jonah, he understands with Jonah, like, you got to take what you can get. If you're just going to try to say yes or no, black or white, he's going to walk away. It's kind of same thing with Charlotte, whereas Wendy's going the opposite way with Charlotte. Marley trying to be like, she might be able to actually get out of this still. I didn't teach her how to money launder yet. And, so that's kind of Wendy's part. And for Wendy, we've truly seen her, man, she's like right there with Darlene, man. I don't know what kind of snake. I'm going to go with Viper here, but Wendy is taking no prisoners now. You see that when she comes out, she starts lying about Ben having addiction problems. She is willing to send Jonah to jail, or she doesn't think he'll really go to jail, but she's willing to get her son arrested. I am not sure what line there is that she won't cross, which is why, I didn't quite buy when she called 911 for Darlene. But still, I think just that, again, you've seen the 2 ways they're going, where Marty's kind of becoming a little bit more jaded and practical, whereas that was kind of Wendy at the beginning. And now Wendy's the one who's looking, big picture and everything like that. And then you flip it around to the other thing I like, and that's what they're doing with the kids. And they're basically just turning the children into mini birds. Jonah is mini Marty right down. And that is one of the better scenes of the season, I think, when half season, whatever you want to call it, part 1, where Marty goes to the motel to help Jonah after Wendy threw up the red flag with this money laundering, and Marty just calmly walked him through it. Joan is flipping out like any kid would if he made a mistake, much less a kid who just made a land me in federal, butt chugging prison kind of mistake. Not great, Bob. And then you have Charlotte, who Wendy is just casually slipping a nice little scotch to as they sit outside as Wendy asks for a favor, just like Wendy would if she was asking somebody on Capitol Hill for a favor. It's just wild that, and you see, especially Charlotte dealing with other people, and she takes on Wendy's mannerisms.
Yeah.
And even Jonah has that quiet confidence that Marty has. Like, yeah, I can do it. I can go on to that. In the relationship with Ruth, it's kind of, not exactly a 1-for-1 of Ruth's relationship with Marty. It's a little bit of it inverted, but you can see shades of the parents in both. And, I think that, again, that's a theme the show is trying to pound home is what are children, do they do to repeat their parents' mistakes, or what do parents impose on their children? Ultimately, we're going to have to see how the show ends to see, kind of where they land and what their thesis statement on that is.
Magnum Mills, is it Viper or is it my anaconda don't want none unless you got buns, hon? Yeah, she's queen of the jungle in terms of being the apex predator with no lines crossed for sure. Magnum Mills, let's move on to what you consider and I consider the third lead. And this was certainly a like for me, and that is Ruth, Ruthie, Ruth, more Ruth. Give me all the Ruth Langmore. Love her, love everything about her. I just want to ride around in her truck, listen to her mixtape, like for sure, 100%, because she's got that fire with what she listens to. I mean, she's basically Dylon spitting fire. I mean, she's Dylon, dude. Like she's great. I love Ruth. And I honestly think season 4 episode 7 was just her Emmy moment. I mean, we joked about this on one of our previous episodes. Like I think she should have got an Epsie or whatever the fuck, dude. Like, give her everything, give her the Grammys, give her the Oscar, give her the Epsie, give her the freaking EGOT, whatever, dude. Like, give her it all, man. Like she's that one. And I just love how she's developed, and I think she did a great job this season, particularly going back to kind of some of her more sensitive side, while also showing that balance of being willing to take risks and an absolute, I mean, you want to talk about what we say on the Joe Blow football show with balls out and Big Paul Claude Johnson. She's all that. I mean, she's big balls out energy. She's big dick swinging, Big Paul Claude Johnson all the time. And she's Ruth Langmore, dude. Like, she is the bee's knees. I love her. I do. I really do.
Get that Ruth, y'all. And I think the show has done an excellent job of bringing back around. Like, think of when she wanted Wyatt to apply to college, and he does that whole essay about how Langmore's cursed, and she reads it and she's crying. And don't you kind of get why she might feel like she's cursed after watching this season? It seems like every decision she's making, right down to like the one night she says, all right, I'm just going to go to the casino, have a good time, puts her in a whole bunch of shit. It literally seems that whatever she does is wrong. So I think she legitimately feels cursed. And at the end of the episode, she's in the place where I really feel that whoever is going to ultimately be the winner of the show is going to be the winner, because they're the one who got Ruth on their side. And that's what it really comes down to, is not everyone can win, but Ruth, she's got baby Zeke and nothing to lose. She is dangerous, she's smart, and she's got some money in her pocket. Look out for fucking Ruth, man. Ruth is the truth, and the truth is it's too late for the Ruth, and the Ruth is not too late for you. I can't not wait to see what she's gonna do.
Ruth is on some scorched earth shit. I mean, dude, she's top down in the winner. That's what winners do, dude. I mean, she is just everything. You can't get enough of her.
That scene after she sees Wyatt's body and just quietly in the truck with like just not saying anything. Just, again, we said it on the coverage of episode 7, but just absolutely just phenomenal acting, and again, should be her Emmy reel.
100, bro. Ruthie. Magnum Mills. My final thing here, at least for this list of likes, was, dude, I gotta be honest with you, man. One thing that really kind of it came down to the first thing we see and the last thing we see, and let me tie it together for you in a beautiful knot, all pretty like. We saw the the opening to season 4, episode 1, where they're in the van, the family, the birds, and they're talking about what they're going to do. And everyone's one cohesive, happy unit. They're a family. And it's like, wait a minute, what's going on here? And then we see this horrific car accident. I mean, Marty's zoning out, has to swerve. This is a car accident where it's like, dude, if one or multiple people aren't dead, like, I'm calling bullshit. This thing is jaws of life. This is very bad accident, like horrible. You see this on this like new guy in the corner puking his guts out. Like, this is very bad accident. And then obviously the season unfolds, right? The first 7 episodes here, part 1 of season 4. And we see this family start to split up significantly. I mean, shit, Jonah's laundering for Ruth and Darlene. He hates Wendy. Wendy's gone deeper and deeper and deeper in this hole with Jonah. And it's this crazy dynamic of a family. And what I love is they didn't take the bait, Magnum Mills. They didn't bring back that opening scene in the van, car accident, to end episode 7, season 4. Okay, part 1 here. That, my friend, we are going to have to wait for the back half, part 2, the final 7 episodes. And maybe, just maybe, they wait until episode 14, the last one ever. I really like what they're doing here. And we talked about it when we first saw it. We're like, I don't know, it's a little Breaking Badish. So what? I like it, and it made my list. I wrote it on the paper.
I said a banana nutriment, man. I heard the fuck I said. I wrote it on the fucking paper, man.
That is completely fair. It's like a banana nutriment. Once you write it on the paper, it's for real, for real. And if you want to know what we think about that, you're just going to have to tune in for the next episode, where we look forward to what we think will happen and what we want to happen in season 4, part 2, the last 7 episodes. So JBG, where do we go from here?
Man, let's give out in honor of our Joe Blow football show and our love for sports. Let's give out a little hardware here, man. It's the end of part 1, season 4. Let's go through who the real MVP is, right? Let's talk about our most improved player, and let's go through who, our most disappointing player, right? Like least valuable. Like let's go through these, man. Let's give out some awards. Let's start from the bottom up. Started from the bottom, now we here. Let's talk about our MDP, the most disappointing player. Magnum Mills, who was your most disappointing player? Season 4, part 1.
Oh, thank you, teacher, for calling on me. On audio, you can't see me raising my hand vigorously over here, but gotta go with Maya Miller. This was a plot line that I was hoping was going to go somewhere finally. She was going to be all right. Look, we got a reasonable FBI agent now. She's in there. Marty's trying to turn her. She's pregnant. This could go a lot of interesting ways. And instead, like, they never really turn her, but she kind of gives them what they need anyways. And then she just out of nowhere turns on everybody at the end. It just didn't have enough context for me. It was a character I was hoping going to be somebody. And it just seems like the whole thing was just a goddamn waste of time. So I was hoping she was going to be the one to, he was going to be like I don't want to spoil Star Wars, but, thought she was going to be the one who was going to save the Jedi, not destroy them. And I thought she was going to save the FBI plot line, and she didn't destroy it, but she certainly didn't fucking help. So most disappointing player, Maya Miller.
Well, Magnum Mills, great minds think alike, because my most disappointing player is Agent Miller. I mean, you nailed it. In season 3, I actually like the dynamic here of her auditing the casino and Marty. I really liked what they did there, and I thought that was more of a threat to Marty than anything else. Another like accountant auditor working for the FBI, super smart. That was very cool. This just was a major whiff, right? Like a major whiff, and I just. Again, it falls back to the fact that the FBI has been the absolute kryptonite for this show. They just have not been able to get the storyline right. So by far the most disappointing player for season 4, part 1. However, we got to give some love, baby. And let's move on up to the east side. Let's go to most improved player. Magnum Mills, I'll start us off here, man. I am going with my guy, Javi. Now, I know you're thinking, well, improved. He wasn't in season 3. No, I'm talking about the development of this character and how important and clutch it was to this part 1 of season 4, and how important and clutch it's going to be to the end. I mean, could you see like some crazy scene at the end where like Javi gets killed by like Jonah or something? Like, yeah, I mean, like they could go so many places with this. He is going to be in it, I think, all the way until the end, one way or the other. We're kind of hitched our wagons to Javi throughout next season. I think, you never know, maybe something happens there, but I see a connection there with him, and he's a loose cannon, man. He's wrapped up in this pharmaceutical thing. He doesn't trust the birds. He wants to bang Charlotte. It's very awkward, and he is dangerous as fuck, dude. Oh, and by the way, he's working for the FBI, so now he's even more dangerous because he has the backing of the feds, the one thing that could possibly bring him down, right, other than himself. And so this is just for a narcissist egomaniac like Javi. That is a recipe for disaster. And I just can't wait to see this final like death match between like Ruth and Javi. Like this is just going to be awesome, and by far the most improved player, most improved character, most improved storyline for me. That was new to season 4. Just, I really like what they did here. That was a big hit.
Javi, when again we first saw him, kind of bringing him in, like, oh, he's going to be the new cartel guy or whatever. I think from that initial impression through where he ended the season as being, legit, maybe the most dangerous person on the show. Big ups, man. I can't really. That's an improvement, man. That's a come up. And I went a couple of ways with this. Originally, I was leaning towards Jonah because apparently he's 14 years old and also a world-class money launderer. Considering at the beginning of the show, he didn't really know what money laundering was. Pretty big come up. But I went another way because this was kind of crazy for me. And so I'm going to go with Frank Cosgrove Jr. This is a dude, when we saw him at the end of season 3, got his manhood blown off. You would have been forgiven at that point if just he never showed up on the show again. You'd have been like, oh, yep, he either died or whatever. He's done. Like, he's just out. Like, that ended him. No, he kind of came back, and now he's smarter and just he's learned his lesson kind of, and now he's going to be the head of the KC Mafia. His dad's dead. He's got resources. He apparently has a new Special Agent Johnson. So it depends if you believe Darlene or not. But seriously, I really like what the actor's done. He does seem to now, he's again at the beginning, he was very just cocky and sure of himself, and he couldn't get in trouble. He was a golden boy. That was why it's so great when Ruth throws him over the edge of the boat into the river. And just now to see him be willing to even, make amends with Ruth and then do a deal with Darlene, it does show you that he's kind of learned that, all right, you want to get ahead in business, you got to do business with people you might not necessarily like, and you have to swallow your tongue and do it. That's a big lesson to learn, and hopefully that makes him more dangerous or a bigger threat than his pops was, because like you've said, that KC Mafia hasn't been a big enough threat. But I think my boy, my most improved player, Frankie Jr., is going to get there in the back half of season 4 here, and he's going to make the Kansas City Mafia a real threat.
I hope so. I really, really hope so. Yeah, man. Look, I said this and alluded to it, a little bit earlier in this podcast. He is the best part of a total swike out, swing and a miss, like whiff, like whatever you want to call it. Like, he is the best part, and I do like what they did for him. And he emerged as somebody who they could build some critical storylines around. And I don't know, man. I mean, does Ruth partner with him? Like, there's a lot that could happen here as they head into season 4, part 2. And I just expect to see a little bit more Frank Jr. here, if not a lot more. And so nice call there, dude. Nice call. Let's move on to you, the real MVP. And I'm talking about the most valuable player of season 4, part 1. Magnum Mills.
Let me do you a favor here, because I think I'm going to be the predictable one here. We know we're not taking the same person. And so I have to say, I went around, I tried to find somebody who wasn't Ruth to be my MVP, and Ruth is my MVP. I'm sorry. I really tried. I really looked into it, but just both from a character development standpoint, especially when you consider her full arc over the 4 seasons here, but even over this season to, she's had alliances with basically everybody on the show to the point now she's on her own. She was, going to be Marty's replacement for the cartel. She was aligned with the Bird. She was aligned with the Snells. It looked like she might get in with the KC Mafia for a minute. Now she's just there with, she got maybe Zeke in a shotgun, and you don't want to fuck with her. So I don't, again, Ruth rules everything around me. I tried to pick somebody else, but again, I think Julia Garner is just amazing. And her performance is, again, if you had to say who's the lead of the show, you can only pick one. She's the lead of the show. If they took her off Ozark, I'd still probably watch it, but I would be way, way less excited.
Cannot argue that, bro. Cannot argue that at all, man. It's all about that. Ruth rules everything around me. Reem, get the Ruth. Ruth, y'all. I mean, she's great, man. I did decide to go a different way, and it's brought to you with love, with disgust, with just utter shock, like with what this character did, who this character is, and how far we've seen this character's moral compass go. And I went with Wendy Bird. All right. Wendy Bird, dub B, baby. All right. Not dub C. All right. We could play some dub C, but no, I'm talking dub B, Wendy Bird. Just her evolution throughout this show has been remarkable. And I remember, when we were talking about season 1, it's like, man, give us a little more Wendy. Season 2, ooh, I like this emergence of maybe like political Wendy. Like you start to see it, like, I want more. Season 3, it's like, yo, Wendy's great. Season 4 is like, oh my God, like she's reached like Mach 5 speed. Like you don't go to that speed. Like that's crazy. Like everything, that's like that scene in Spaceballs where like they go to that speed and everything goes crazy. And like, dude, she is operating, for better or worse, at her full pinnacle. There is nothing she won't do. No line she won't cross. And we're seeing it in every facet of her life. We saw it in the political world when she literally helped. She went from working on President Obama's campaign to helping a Republican senator cover up a voting machine scam. Like this, that is wild, dude. And it's also very telling, just given the state of reality right now. With that's a legitimate concern, right? And so I just we saw with her family. She's not even talking to Marty about parental decisions anymore. She's just doing shit. And what's she doing? Talking her daughter out of going to college and living a normal life. Considering and wanting to have her son arrested to like get control over him. And like, this is wild out, bro. Like she is a full-blown alpha, and she's emerged, in my opinion, as probably the lead of the show in terms of getting the most, being wrapped up in the most storylines and getting the most FaceTime and lines and things like that. But she also has just become a full-blown, you can't even call, she's an anaconda. She is alien space snake, dude. Like I don't even know what she is, but she is a tear. And Wendy, she is my MVP, not for how great of a human being she is, but just who the fuck Wendy Bird is, dude. Like she's bad. You don't want to play with her either.
Yeah, go ahead, play the snake jazz for Wendy Bird. And the only reason I agree is, again, I do with a 3-lead situation here. The only thing I have against Wendy really is I don't think there's any way she aligns with Ruth. So I think that's just out no matter what. So that kind of makes her just slightly less interesting because it limits the number of ways she can go going forward. But yeah, I mean, fantastic season by Laura Linney. Love, again, political Wendy. We love. I don't like what she's doing, but I think it's very interesting to watch. And the way, especially the way she's acting it when she gets just the emotion, like when she rips the phone off and when she's lying about bed and you see her on her face, like trying to keep it together, and just phenomenal all the way around. And when you talk about phenomenal all the way around, you got to kind of, at the end of the day, you got to slap a grade on this. So Jamie G, before we put a grade on part 1, season 4 here, let's just quickly recap how we graded the first 7 episodes. You want to go first? Would you like me to go first?
No, Magnum Mills, I'll jump in here, man. And this was really cool to go back through and look at our grades throughout part 1, season 4 here. And let's start right at season 4, episode 1, the beginning of the end. I graded this thing an 83 And again, I loved how this picked up right where it left off in terms of action and suspense that bled over from a wild season 3 finale. I loved the opening scene. I didn't know how much I would love it with the car, or the van, until the end of the season, which is cool. Going back now, I would probably regrade this thing at, let's say, an 87, 88, just because I really enjoyed how they did that. So this would get at least 4 to 6 more points from me. Moving on to season 4, episode 2, Let the Great World Spin. I graded this as a 79. I think we were both probably in that neighborhood here. Season 4, episode 3, City on the Make. That got an 82 for me. Season 4, episode 4, Ace Deuce. That was a 79. Again, soft C plus here. Season 4, episode 5, Ellie. This was the weakest one for me of this season. Again, setting up a lot of chess pieces here to kind of build to the final 2 episodes of the season, and episode 6, episode 7 here, part 1. But it was just very slow for me, and it all kind of hinged on this this Ruth with the drug deal, which isn't bad, but it just, I don't know, man. That one was the weakest one for me. The only one that dipped into the 60s here. I mean, it's still a passing grade, but you're not, getting dinner out at Pizza Hut and seeing it on the refrigerator hung up real proud. I mean, it's still a 69, but you did pass. Season 4, episode 6, Sangre sobre todo. This to me got an 80. Going back through and rewatching this, I probably could have given this even maybe an 82 here. I enjoyed this episode a lot, but man, season 4, episode 7, the season finale here for part 1, Sanctified. This was a 94 for me, and I stand by this being mid 90s. Was it perfect? No, but it was very, very, very good. And when I look back at this list, Magnum Mills, it tells me one thing. This was a good fucking season, dude. Like, this was a really good 7-episode run here. And for me, I mean, my final grade on this thing, Magnum Mills, as a season, when I look back and think about it, what they did and how excited I am moving into the back half of this, part 2, the final 7 episodes, all that stuff wrapped up into one, I'm giving this season a 90. This is an absolute A for me. Is it an A++? No. Is it an A+? No. Is it an A-? Probably not. This is an A solid A. I'm giving this a 90 on the dot. And I'm really, and that's a strong 90, and this is a great season, and I'm just beyond excited about, part 2, season 4, part 2, the back half here.
Yeah, I had a lot in common with you here. I really enjoyed the season premiere and the finale probably the most, and I had Ellie as my lowest rated episode. I had episode 1, the beginning of the end, at an 86. Episode 2, Let the Great World Spin, at a 78. Episode 3, City on the Make, at an 81. Episode 4, Ace Deuce, at a 77. Episode 5, Ellie, at a 72. Episode 6, Sangre sobre todo, at a 79. And episode 7, Sanctified, at a 92. And like you, I feel that even if you average those out, you wind up in that low 80 range. But I think that the whole is worth more than the individual parts here. And I think that shows in the way that I really enjoyed both the beginning and the end of the season with the premiere and the finale. So I think I'm going to have to go ahead and I have to give this a full Back to the Future. I'm ready to go Back to the Future to watch season 4, part 2. So I got to go up to that 88 miles an hour, giving it an 88.88, season 4, part 1, Ozark on Netflix, Doc Brown, flux capacitor, 88 miles per hour. Or just 88, whatever.
I'll tell you what, Magnum Mills, I had a lot of fun doing the Ozark podcast presented by the Joe Blow Football Show. And I can't wait to get into season 4, part 2, man. I just can't wait to see the story end. But before we do that, we should probably talk about what we're going to do next while we're still on Ozark season 4, part 1. Magnum Mills, what more is there for us to do? Should we do another episode? I think we should.
Yeah, I think we have to, my guess is we'll wind up doing another kind of season 4 part 2 preview shortly before season 4 part 2 comes out. But for now, because we just watched all of season 4 part 1, I think it makes sense that we get out ahead of ourselves here while it's fresh in our heads, we sit down and we just look at kind of the plot lines of characters going forward and figure out what do we want to happen and what do we think will happen. So that's what you have to stay tuned for on the Ozark podcast. You can find us on all of your favorite podcast streaming platforms simply by searching for Ozark Podcast, or on social media at Ozark Podcast, Instagram, Twitter, all the good ones, Ozark Podcast. We're from the Joe Blow Football Show. You can find us at joeblowfootballshow.com. And the Joe Blow Football Show is also on social media at Joe Blow Show. We might have a little bit of, if you're into the Super Bowl, doing some props. We also have a, fantasy football podcast, Seize the Gap Fantasy Football. Find it at Seize the Gap FF. Again, on your favorite podcast streaming platform, Twitter, Instagram, all the good stuff on social media, Seize the Gap FF. I'm Magnum Mills. That's Jamie G. This has been the Ozark Podcast, Season 4, Part 1, wrapping it up. And you know what? You can wrap up your money, but unless that money's clean, it still ain't worth much.
And if you don't know, now you know. This has been the Ozark Podcast, presented by the Joe Blow Football Show. We are not in any way, shape, or form affiliated with Ozark, MRC, Aggregate Films, or Netflix. This show is for entertainment purposes only. Any views or opinions expressed here are personal and do not represent those of people, institutions, or organizations who may or may not be associated with the Joe Blow Football Show. If you have any questions, please contact us at ozarkpodcast@gmail.com. That's ozarkpodcast@gmail.com. Thank you for listening. Please remember to like, subscribe, and comment.
I'm so fucking focused.